Right, when we're talking about the Normans and the people that are fighting called the Saxons then, we're talking about cone-shaped helmet, conical helmet, with a piece down the front to protect the front of your face. Padding, gambeson, later on called an accaton, made up of layers of leather or linen. It's got mail armour underneath this as well. Mail stops you being cut. The padding stops hopefully your bones breaking. That's the idea of it. Shield, we start off with a small shield first. First Peter's down forward as well. So we've also then got a large Norman shield. Protects most of the body. You can see how the helmets were changing. We go a little bit into the Crusades, up to the late 1100s, up to 1200s. Now we've got like a bucket on top of your head, to give you more protection. Face is now fully protected. All this mail armour, again, it stops you being cut. For all those people that come to an event and say, oh, your weapons are not sharp. Well, why do we need sharp weapons? Metal on metal is not going to cut you. What we want to really do is hit the person really hard and break the bones underneath. This is the time period that we're talking about. Swords, gentlemen. I'll ask our two gentlemen here in the black to stand forward. These are Crusaders from the Knights of St. John. Just down the road at Poling, there was a small preceptory where these gentlemen had pledged themselves to God to go up to the Holy Land, to protect the pilgrims, to run hospitals, to look after the poor and the sick. So they'd taken vows of poverty, even though they do seem to be rather wealthy, but that's another story entirely. Two different shields, and we've got the long, big kite shield, and we've got the small heater shield. Which came first? The long one came first. As armour changed, they shortened the shield. Cone-shaped helmets again, conical helmets. What's your first weapon in this period? It's not the sword, it's the spear. Why? If you've got a spear, stay where you are. If you haven't got a spear, take a step backwards. Why? It's all about distance. On horseback, this is where your lance is going to start. So as you're trundling across the battlefield in mass formations, the lance is going to be stuck in the person as you go past. Then you would draw your sword, your axe, your mace, whatever you've got to bludgeon, to smash. So the spear is your first choice. It's a cheaper weapon. When the spear is broken, then you draw something else. Okay, this then is the Norman period through to the Crusades. You give them. Right, we're going to leap forward in history. We're going to go up to the 14th century. Our glorious days of Crécy and Poitiers. So there's a round of applause then for the 14th century, please. This is Walter de Manny. Big round of applause. Loud, we can't hear you. Big helmet. Now the great helm, right? This is all about strength. He's going to have lots of nasty weapons being thrown towards him. The weapon, though, that he really doesn't like in this period isn't the sword, it's not the axe, it's not the spear, it's the arrow, and we'll demonstrate those a bit later on. Heater shield is still here. This is the 1300s, very, very early 1400s. The shield is still here. Remember, it started off as a big long one. They chopped it down because the armour is now getting heavier. We've still got mail armour here, but now we've got bits of plate armour coming over the top of it. We've realised that, yes, it's going to stop some blows. However, the arrow is still going through. All you can do is slow that arrow down, slow the depth down. Whole variety of things. We've got now leg protection, and you'll find that the armour going over the feet at some point. Padding underneath here as well. Gauntlets. Now more protection for the hand as well. And you might even find if we took this helmet off, there might be a secondary helmet on underneath as well. It's all to do with layers. Ta-da! That's a round of applause. That's really good. So, meanwhile, behind us then, we have Walter's son, who is starting to armour up. Edged and decorated armour. This is now all about showing off. It's no longer just practical, we're now actually looking for a decoration. These men are spending a vast fortune on their armour to keep them safe, and they want you to know it. Now the price equivalent, if you wanted to go and buy a set of armour back in the 1300s, you're looking around about £30,000 to £40,000. So obviously not everyone's going to ever be able to afford this amount of armour. Armour on the battlefield, you take it off from the dead, well a lot of that's not going to fit you, because automatically the armour is going to make armour to fit that individual. So yes, the armourer can change some of the armour, and some of the men at arms might take some of the knight's armour and recycle it. You'll find a lot of that going on, particularly in the 15th century, which we'll talk about in a moment. As you can see, see he is heavily armoured. The 15th century then, things are really taking a big step forward. Lesser arms, men at arms down here. We have Master George and Master Kelly. Okay, very basic helmets called kettle hats. Very bits of armour. You can see they're far poorer. My lord though here, he's really at the top end of his game. This then, mail armour to stop the cuts. All the plate armour to stop all the impacts. It's decorated, it's fancy. You can see him on the battlefield. He's got his lovely feathers and everyone knows where he is. Probably hear him more than anything else. Whole choices of weapons. He would start off then not with a spear anymore. If he's on foot, we're starting off with these pole weapons. We can have a pole axe, a pole hammer. There are a whole range of nasty things that are designed to do some nasty things to you. Smash your armour, penetrate the armour, lever the armour open. When that eventually breaks, he might then draw a sword. And he's got a whole range of nasty different weapons he can do. So the hand and a half sword, it's about distance. You can see it now narrows down. What we're looking to do then is to stab you, but we're not looking to get penetration into your body. Drive all that energy into one narrow space. It's going to dent the armour, dent the mail, break your bone. This is about breaking bones still. What's the one weapon he's still worried about? The arrow. But you can see there is now attempts on the armour. You'll get this decoration, and later on when you go into the castle armoury, you'll see sets of armour which got lots and lots of lines on it, called fluting. And that is deflecting the arrows. We'll talk about them a bit more in a moment. The helmet then, double visored, swept back. Again, when he's on horseback and he's riding towards the enemy, bolts, arrows hopefully will skim off this. Hopefully weapons again would skim off. That's what he's hoping. So this is the 15th century. So we'll show you some combat now. Now the 15th century obviously are rather worried, and like the men-at-arms versus our knights over here, if then they don't want to kill the knight, they want to capture him. Best of luck. Meanwhile down here we've got far more protection with our shields, and as you can see the style of fighting, it's hacking. You want to smash the shield open, split the shield, split the person. Some good blows going here with Stephen and Matthew. And if you're wondering, we actually free fight, we don't do any choreography, which you can see later. Go and check the injuries out. Now two gentlemen down the end just doing some spear work, just getting to get their distance. Sword and shield here, lifting big blows going into the legs. Master Kelly's ended up with a bit of a raw end of the stick here, fighting Sir William. The 14th versus the 15th century here. Well, that's painful. Say, they're still going for it, you notice? That's worth a cheer. Come on, audio. Meanwhile, still getting armoured. Now you can see the advantage of having a longer reach. Sir William then is literally able to bring the lightly armoured men-at-arms down. In fairness, what the men-at-arms would like to do is to mob William, literally just jump on him. I think it's a round of applause there for Sir William Marshall. Gentlemen, can I ask you to mix and match maybe and do a little demonstration just between the two of you? Advantages and disadvantages. Sir William carrying more armour and weight, 60 pounds of weight armour. Of course, he's losing his arm, or armour. Okay, some nice big action going on here with the Crusaders. You lot are not interested in them, are you? You just want to see all the shiny stuff. Right, just a little bit more, then we're going to introduce to our archers. Oh, so Water Sun is almost ready. It's a good exercise to see how long it takes a person to get armoured up though. A good squire should be able to get his knight in armour in about 10 minutes. Obviously we haven't got a good squire over there yet. Oh, so Water's down. That's a win for the 15th century then, so a round of applause to William. Okay, Squire Matthews down. You know he's praying. 2 Crusaders, 1 knight. Well, there goes the Norman, so it's the 5th. So the heavily armoured 15th century knight versus 2 Crusaders. Good blows going in. Oh, there goes Andrew. Is that who he's praying? Stephen the Younger has been disarmed. That's another win for the 15th century. Well, what? Right, the archers then, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be representing the 15th century archer. So people that you might expect to see at the Battle of Agincourt, because we won that. We're going to do 2 demonstrations or 3 demonstrations for the archers first. Can I have a round of applause for the following people, please? Can I have applause for Mrs. Stephanie, Sergeant William, Master David, Master Nicholas, Master Michael, Master John, Master George, and Master John. Our Master of Ceremonies out here in the green and black is Captain Ian, the Rablot. Down the far end you'll see there's a spear standing up in the middle of the ground. That's going to represent where the enemy is going to be. The idea of a clout is our archers will shoot high up in the air and drop the arrows down as near as they can to that stick or that staff. The idea is that's where the enemy are going to be. So the command, knock, place the arrow on the string, draw, pull the string back, and loose, let loose the arrow. Now watch where the arrows are dropping, because that's where we're going to put our knights later on. Hail of arrows goes down the hill. Now what finally finished off our 15th century knights was the archers that developed arrows that were literally going to penetrate layers. The armourers had developed a system of armour called fluted armour, which was deflecting the arrows. The trouble was, by the time they invented that, guns were on the battlefield, bullets were going through the armour, they gave up making armour, and guns came onto the battlefield. Hail of arrows goes up the hill, and that's not too bad a grouping, that's very, very good. Okay, we're going to do 2 more arrows. Okay, and the final arrow for the clouds. So remember, they're trying to get as near to that staff as they possibly can. Nice, that's a round horse for the archer. So imagine then, the enemy that have had arrows drop upon them, and in the 15th century we'd be looking for an archer to shoot 15 arrows per minute. So let's times that by 20,000 archers. Let's times that by 15 minutes of shooting. That's 4.5 million arrows going to drop on you in the first 15 minutes of a battle. You're bound to hit something. And that was it. This arrow storm that the enemy would be going into would literally bring a charge, particularly on a heavy horse, literally to a grind. Hail of arrows goes down. Ooh, not bad. Now, it's a very deceptive thing, this, because we're on a hill and there's a slopey bit, so judging distance is actually very, very difficult on this site. Now you'll appreciate a mass ranks of enemy coming towards us. Arrows will be going into them, into the horses. People will be falling onto the ground. Now it was law in England that men had to train between the ages of 8 and 60. Normally on a Sunday, because that's when you go to church on a Sunday, you weren't technically allowed to work. So they'd have all their archers training. And that's why you need 1 minute to get rid of as many arrows as they possibly can. The enemy are getting nearer and nearer. Imagine it. So here we go. They're off. Come on, audience. Let's start encouraging them. Come on in, archers. Come on, audience. I mean, it's not long. It could save your country. It could save your lives. Now you notice some of these archers are kneeling. Some of them are standing up. You'd expect to see both on the battlefield. Come on, audience, keep clapping. Running out of time. Come on, archers, speed it up. Oh, this is looking good. Regrouping some arrows, if nothing else. Come on, keep going, audience. Nearly there. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, introducing the mass ranks of history, we have Wantanani, the 14th century. Louder, we can't hear you. We have his son, Carl, also from the 14th century. We have the 15th century, William Marshall. We have Adam de Gudrun, the 15th century. We have representing the 12th century. We have Andrew, Stephen, Peter, Matthew, and like squires and men-at-arms. Okay, so Captain gets his archers. Hail of arrows goes down the field. Notice everyone with a shield puts a shield up. They're not dark. Clouds is asking them to draw back. Let the arrows drop down upon the enemy. See, I wouldn't go for the ones with the shields. I'd go for the other guys myself. Take the ones with the shields out later on. Hail of arrows goes down the hill. If anyone gets hit, audience, do shells. You'll probably hear them yell first. Right. So we have in the yellow and black is the 14th century. In the yellow and red, the plumes is the 15th century. The lone lights in the middle is the 15th century. Hail of arrows goes down the hill. Oh, Marshall. And he's a birthday boy as well. And Normans are very sensibly forming a shield wall. Come on then, audience, who's going to win this? Knights or the archers? All the knights are still standing. There's 8 up there. Going for the new boy, that's large enough. Here we go, they're halfway across the field. The Normans are sticking together. The others are in slight open order, so William's got a bit of a limp on. I think he had that before. Hail of arrows goes down the hill again. It's all going for Sir William. That hurts. Even with armour on, it still hurts. The 14th century going a slightly different path. They know that everyone's going for Sir William. Oh! Sir William Marshall is down. Hail of arrows goes down. Oh, towards the money. That's one in the leg. Come on, audience, that's worth a bit of a clap. Normans are going to open order. Okay, arrows are going in all different directions. Come on, Arch, you've got to pick up the pace. They're halfway across the field. They're advancing towards you. The archers know that the knights get up to this end. Yes! Welcome to the group, Adam. Oh, come on, archers! They're running out of arrows. You're going to lose this. Oh. There's 4 Normans, 2 from the 14th century, even though one's limping. Okay, 2 shields and 1 from the man is down. This is one's going to be the last ones. It's a win for the Knights, boys and men.
Show it on.
Fucking hell.
Still. Come on. one more time. All put your hands up.
Join in if you're Ian.
No, thank you.
If you said to me.
All
I know you're like.
Time out. Come on. Thank you very much, children. You're going to go back to your parents, that's great. So you might wonder why they're coming to me like this. It's all about weight control and food management. So we weigh the birds every day. That's every day, 7 days a week. We have to get the right flying weight. Like I said, Amy's at £2 4 ounces. If she weighed anything above £2 4, say, argument's sake, £2 7, I wouldn't fly her, because she wouldn't be this responsive. And I want the birds to be as responsive as possible. So we can either, like I said, go out hunting, use her for flying displays, we use them for pest control. It's all about the weights. There's a little bit of a bond there. Amy thinks I'm her boyfriend, so in the mornings when I come into the aviary, she decides to build me a little nest. There's always a nest waiting for me. Come on. There. There's Sky. Come on. Come on, Amy. Amy. That's coming to it. Come on. Right, thanks guys. Cheers, if you have any